are you in?
Yeah,
Like,
where's
where's Pomona?
Laverne's like off. You go like, say you're going from Warner Brothers. You go on the 134 East, and on the 210 East, you go straight towards.
Further east. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
All
past
right.
Pasadena.
Yeah, past Pasadena, Arcadia, Monrovia. Yeah.
Right.
It'll take a little bit.
Guys, we are live on YouTube.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Do we do a quick rundown of the cast, or what do you think, Christine?
Yeah, let's do a rundown.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm Jack. I'll be reading stage directions, and this is mostly Christine Hughes, who is reading the character of Joe, the iconic role of Joe. We are reading, by the way, Greta Gerwig's adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's Little Women. American classic, Little Women. Hunter, who are you?
I'm Theodore Lawrence, but you can just call me Laurie.
Jeremy?
So exciting.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy. I'm Aunt March. I'm Marmee. I'm John Brooke. I'm a soldier. I'm Jeremy.
Go for it, Eric.
I am Eric. I will be playing Mr. Dashwood, as well as Laurie's father, Mr. Lawrence. I'll be someone named Melvin and a couple other assorted characters. I cannot wait to play.
Go for it, Curtis.
My name is Curtis. My main role is going to be playing Father March and other miscellaneous background characters as well.
Go for it, Anne.
Hey, I am Anne, and I will be Amy and Viola and Mrs. Hummel and Mrs. Dashwood.
Go for it, Kenzie.
Good names.
All right, I'm Kenzie. I'm going to be playing Beth. Let's see, Sally Moffat, Olivia, Hannah, Mrs. Kirk, and Susan Robinson.
And Rose, our newest
Hi.
cast in the Quarantine Theater.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rose. I'm going to be playing Meg and also all three of the Dashwood girls.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of us reading a lot of parts.
Yeah.
Alrighty. All right, Little Women by Greta Gerwig, based on the novel by Louisa May Alcott. Interior of New York Publishing Office in 1868. Jo Marsh, our heroine, hesitates. In the half light of a dim hallway, she exhales and prepares, her head bowed like a boxer about to go into the ring. She puts her hand on the doorknob, there's a pause, and then she opens it onto a disorderly room. It is full of men. Some sit with their feet up on the desks, higher than their hats, which they did not remove for her. They smoke and read, hardly noticing that she has walked in. Jo walks through the desks looking for one particular person.
Excuse me? I was looking for the weekly volcano office. I wish to see Mr. Dashwood. A friend of mine desired me to offer a story by her. She wrote it. She'd be glad to write more if this suits.
Mr. Dashwood enters and extends his rough, large hand and she gives him the manuscript.
Not a first attempt, I take it.
No, sir. She has sold to Olympic and Scandal and got a prize for a tale in the Blarney Stone Banner.
A prize?
Yes.
Sit.
Jo sits, hands folded. Mr. Dashwood reads her story with a pen in hand. Every time his pen scratches, Jo feels her heart breaking. She's on the verge of tears.
We'll take this.
You will?
With alterations, it's too long.
You've cut. I took care to have a few of my sinners repent.
The country just went through a war. People want to be amused, not preached at. Morals don't sell nowadays. Perhaps mention that to your friend.
That is, what compensation?
We pay 25 to 30 for things of this sort. We'll pay 20 for that.
You can have it. Make the edits.
Jo hands over the story to Mr. Dashwood and he hands over the money. Business is done.
Did I tell my friend that you'll take another one if she had one better than this?
We'll look at it. Tell her to make it short and spicy. And if the main character is a girl, make sure she's married by the end or dead, either way.
Excuse me?
What name would she like to put on the story?
Oh, yes. None at all, if you please.
Just as she likes, of course.
Good morning, sir. Good day.
Outside of New York City, out during the day, the streets of New York after the Civil War and at the brink of the Industrial Revolution. It is a city in the middle of becoming. The 20th century is on the horizon. Horses, trolleys, young, old, black, white immigrants, returning soldiers, factory workers, wealthy industrialists, fashionable women, and poor mothers all crowd the streets. We find Jo, sprinting down the street with utter joy. She has pulled up her skirts and is running full of steam. Not lady running, flat out running for the joy of it. The interior of a boarding house in New York City in 1868. Jo is reading and walking at the same time, bounding two at a time up the steps of a large brownstone boarding house. She stoops to pick up a cat who suns herself on the steps.
My Beth would like you very much.
As Jo walks through the house into the drawing room, she lets the cat down and goes straight to the fireplace. She stands with her back to it to warm herself and produces a small notebook and begins to write. She is so engrossed with her writing that she doesn't hear the boisterous group of college students and professors, men and a few women, when they descend upon the room. She just keeps writing. Good afternoon, Miss March. Jo looks up from her notebook to see Frederick Barr. Looking down at her, he speaks with a French accent and, like all Europeans, seems to know something that we Americans don't.
Good afternoon, Professor.
You're on fire.
Thank you.
You are on fire. Jo suddenly notices the back of her dress has caught on fire, and in a panic, another woman on the group helps her and the dress is put out. Disaster is avoided, although not humiliation. I have the same habit, you see. Enter Mrs. Carr, the landlady, who bustles into the room. Who's Mrs. Kirk?
I'm right here, I'm sorry. Kitty and Minnie are waiting.
My students need me.
Always working.
Money is the end and aim of my mercenary existence.
No one gets ink stains like yours just out of desire for money.
Well, my sister Amy is in Paris, and until she marries someone obscenely wealthy, it's up to me to keep the family afloat. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Cut to France, Paris, during the day in 1868. Amy March is an angelic 20-year-old with golden curls. She is painting a staged scene along with a few other young artists. It is a classic scene of two young men and a young woman at a picnic, and Amy is rendering it realistically, imitating the 18th and 19th century painters she loved. She looks at the painting of the young man next to her. He is doing something radically different. The paint is obvious. The colors are bright and unlifelike. Space is flattened. It is not meant to be realistic. It is the beginning of modernism. She looks back at her own piece and realizes that she might have missed that moment that she came here to master. Perhaps she's already passed before her time. She continues. On the Paris promenade, Amy is riding in the open air with her Aunt March, reading a letter from home. Everyone in Paris is out. Aunt March is only happy when she's complaining, and she's in excellent form this morning. It is the place to see and be seen. Amy March is doing both excellently.
The decadents have ruined Paris. If you ask me, these French women couldn't lift up a hairbrush. Amy, I said these French women couldn't lift a hairbrush. Amy, these French women couldn't lift a hairbrush.
Where'd Amy go?
Muted.
Oh yes, very true, Aunt March.
Oh, don't humor me, girl. What do they write, your troublemaking family?
Mother doesn't say anything about Beth. I feel I should go back, but they all say stay.
You can do nothing if you go back. The girl is sick, not lonely. And you shouldn't go home until you and Fred Vaughn are properly engaged.
Yes, until I've completed all of my painting lessons, of course.
What? Oh, yes, yes, of course.
Stop the carriage, Lori! Lori!
Abandoning her primness, she launches out of the carriage and runs, nearly knocking people over. This is Theodore Lawrence, Lori, a 26-year-old without a sense of direction. Like most 26-year-olds, they hug joyously and unselfconsciously.
Amy,
Right in front of the hotel.
I looked for you and I couldn't find you anywhere.
You didn't look hard enough.
Maybe I just didn't recognize you. You've become so beautiful.
Please don't.
I thought you liked that sort of thing.
No. Where's your grandfather?
Still in Germany. I'm on my own, traveling and having fun.
And drinking and gambling and flirting.
Well, don't tell your mother.
Are you chasing some young girl across Europe?
No.
I couldn't believe Joe turned you down. I'm so sorry.
Don't be, Amy. I'm not.
Amy, March, you come back here right this minute, instant.
Oh, Aunt March.
How are we fine, man?
Oh, get off of me. How far go? Alonz, get out of here.
And March attempts to get the carriage to leave, and Lori is thrown off while Amy is thrown in.
The New Year's party. It's a ball. Everyone will be there, including Fred. Pick me up at the hotel at 8. The Siobhan. Dress for festivities. Top hats and silks.
Oh, well, I'll wear my best silk.
Lori turns and continues his heartbroken stroll. As Amy looks at him, she turns back to Aunt March.
It's Lori.
I know.
Amy turns around to get one last look at Lori. She loves him, as she always loved him. In a tailor shop, Meg March, beautiful but with the melancholy of yearning emanating from her, is browsing the silks with Sally Moffat, a rich young girl who possesses an air of casual boredom that comes from never having to work for what you have.
20 yards of the blue silk as well as the pink. Someone will be by for it later. Oh, Meg, that would look so lovely on you. I know just the dressmaker to send it to. You'll be the prettiest wife in Concord.
You're muted.
Hey, muted.
Am I muted?
Meg is.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. Oh no, John needs a new coat for winter, and Daisy and Demi need new clothes, and
And his wife needs a new dress.
I can't. I just can't.
He'll be so pleased with how you look that he'll forget all about the expense.
I don't suppose it's such an extravagance.
Will 20 yards do?
Yes, thank you.
And Meg watches, delighted but fighting guilt, as the beautiful fabric is cut. In Meg March's house, from inside a modest rural cottage, Meg emerges, wiping her hands and muttering to herself.
$50. What was I thinking?
She sees her 2 3-year-olds, Daisy and Demi, playing in the yard. She sits down to watch them, feeling both grateful and trapped. They run up to her.
Mommy! Mommy!
They fall into her arms. She accepts them and sends them off to play again. We hear sounds of beautiful Bach piano sonata being played. In the March house, the music grows louder as we see empty rooms of the childhood home. The attic, the dining room, stairs. Finally, we find Beth March alone at the piano. She stops playing suddenly, as if in pain. Then she takes a deep breath and feels the sunlight on her hands and stretches it out.
Beth! Beth!
No response. Cut to a New York theater that evening. Shakespeare's Twelfth Night unfolds on stage. Jo is in the back, the cheap standing room. She's so wrapped up that she moves in until she's practically leaning over the railing. It's the scene where Viola, dressed as a man, seduces Olivia.
That you do think you are not what you are.
Then think you're right. I am not what I am.
Friedrich watches the play from his own proper seat. At a certain point, he sees Jo and then watches her watching the play, her delight making him smile. In the New York Theater lobby, the audience flows out of the theater. Joe, still in her theatrical reverie, spots Friedrich. She freezes, not moving, not wanting to be seen. She then follows behind the band of friends, drawn to them in spite of herself. At a German beer hall, it is a rowdy and raucous crowd, drinking and dancing. Joe walks through the crowd, taking it in and watching Frederick. He knows everyone and can speak half a dozen languages. Another young man, speaking a language Joe doesn't know, offers his hand for the dance.
I'm sorry, I only speak English.
Come dance.
He pulls her into the dance, and she does her best to follow along. It's whirling and loud and wild. Before long, she finds herself paired with Frederick, and all self-consciousness leaves her. She is part of the night, and the room, and the music, and throws herself into the movement. Suddenly, we are taken back to the past. The March House in 1861. The sisters are all together again in the past, in the snow globe of girlhood, and memory that is ever present, but forever gone. They are in a flurry of getting ready for a holiday party.
I know just who I'll dance with.
Who will you dance with, Joe?
You know I never dance.
I can't dance.
Why can't we all go to the party? It's not fair.
Meg's hair is covered in papers. Joe manipulates a pair of hot tongs. Meg struggles to get on a pair of slippers.
Just wear your regular shoes.
Last winter.
My nose will simply not look refined.
I like your nose.
Oh, Joe.
Don't touch me. Thanks. I already feel ridiculous. I don't want to look it.
You can be pretty if you tried.
Don't want to, won't do it.
I don't want to go, but I wish I could hear all the music.
I'll keep it all in my head and try to sing it for you when I get home.
Joe goes back to working on Meg's hair, and Beth watches Joe handle the tongs, amazed and worried.
Ought they smoke like that?
It's the dampness drying.
What a queer smell. It's like burnt feathers.
There, now you'll see a perfect little ringlet.
Joe removes the tongs, and a burnt clump of hair follows. Joe screams, and Meg screams because Joe screams.
Why is your hair off?
Meg, I'm so sorry.
What have you done? Oh, Marmee, I'm spoiled. I can't go. My hair.
I'm sorry. You should have asked me to do it. I ruined everything.
Cut to the Gardeners' New Year's Eve party. Meg and Joe are walking down the hallway at the Gardeners' very fancy party. The party already is in full swing, and Meg is chastising Joe.
Don't stare. Don't put your hands behind your back. Don't say Christopher Columbus. Don't say capital. Don't shake hands. Don't whistle.
Meg March, you look so pretty.
Enter Sally Moffat. At the moment, Sally Gardner pulls Meg and Joe away and is left standing awkwardly.
Meg.
Meg seems to put on another face and attitude, more grown up and elegant. Joe fades away into the back of the party. Later at the party, Joe, now 16, is miserable, glumly watches the dancers. She pulls at a string on her dress. She catches Meg's eye, laughing with her dance partner, and pleads with her to leave. Meg aggressively shakes her head, and Joe sighs. A very large red-headed boy makes a beeline for Joe. In her terror, she looks for an escape. She slips behind a curtain, and walking backwards, she nearly sits on Theodore Lawrence. Laurie, a very serious-looking 17-year-old boy.
Dear me, I didn't know anyone was here.
I mean, stay if you like.
I want to serve you.
Not at all. I don't know many people. It felt rather strange at first, you know.
So do I.
Miss March, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Lawrence, but I'm not Miss March. I'm only Joe.
And I'm not Mr. Lawrence. I'm only Laurie.
Don't you dance?
I don't know how you do things here yet. You see, I've spent most of my life in Europe.
Europe? That's capital. I shouldn't use words like that.
Says who?
Meg, she's my older sister. That's her, see? the girl in the violet dress.
Very pretty.
She reminds me to be good, so father will be proud of me when he returns.
Where is he?
Volunteered for the Union Army. I wanted to go fight with him. I can't get over my disappointment in being a girl.
Joe, would you like to dance with me?
I can't because
Because what?
you won't tell.
Never.
I scorched my dress. See, Meg told me to keep still so no one would see it. You can laugh all you want too. It's funny, I know.
Never mind that. I'll tell you how we can manage.
Later at the party, Lori bows, Joe awkwardly curtsies, and then they go dancing wildly up and down a wraparound porch. It's actually very romantic in its exuberance. Sometimes Joe is the woman and sometimes the man. Same with Lori. They are mid-spin when they see Meg wildly gesture at them from inside. She's hurt.
My foot. I've hurt my ankle.
Meg is limping. Joe supports her and Lori trails behind.
Oh, how will I get home?
I don't see what you can do except get a carriage or stay here all night.
Too expensive.
Well, let me take you. It's right next door.
No, thank you. We cannot accept.
You must take mine, please.
No, it's so early. You can't mean to leave yet.
I always leave early. I do, truly.
What choice do you have?
Cut to the March house. A laughing Marmee, holding a book and covered in flour, opens the door on Lori and Joe, supporting Meg.
Goodness gracious, what have you done?
Marmee has none of the pretensions of the other mothers. No artifice. She's a hippie before they existed. The little girls, Amy and Beth, come rushing down the stairs and attack the older girls.
Here, make room. Meg is a wounded soldier.
Oh, Meg, you'll kill yourself for fashion one of these days. Hannah, we need ice.
Tell us all about it. What's he like?
Was the music wonderful?
Lori stands apart, not wanting to be disrupted, but loving the March household, this slightly medieval utopia of artists and thinkers.
Come in, come in. Apologies for the chaos. I enjoy baking in the middle of the night. Don't mind the clutter, Mr. Lawrence. We don't.
Lori, please.
Can I call you Teddy?
Yes.
You must be a part of the girls' theatricals.
I'm Amy.
Hello.
They could use an extra player, although you'll have to fight Joe for the male roles or play a girl. Here, have us count.
Amy keeps sneaking.
Lori, how are your ankles? Do you need ice?
No, thank you, ma'am.
Oh, just call me Mother or Marmee. Everybody does.
He doesn't say anything, but looks as if he's about to cry. He doesn't have a mother and hasn't had one for a long time.
Oh,
I don't believe fine young ladies enjoy themselves a bit more than we do.
sorry, my script keeps on.
The girls laugh and prance and gossip around the warm fire. He stands apart, loving all of them, the whole family. In the March house, he especially loves Joe. As Lori retreats back to his big, lonely house, he looks across the field to Joe, riding alone in the attic, absorbed with her work. Cut back to the present, the New York boarding house. Joe works with her riding costume on, an antique military jacket. Her riding is like an attack, moving into enemy territory and occupying space. Her hand starts to cramp. She shakes it, stretches it, and then switches hands. Suddenly she stops. She's heard something. She opens the door, but the hallway is empty. She looks down and sees a book, a very beautiful copy of the complete works of William Shakespeare. She opens the cover, and inside there is a notice. From Frederick, for the writer in the attic, because you enjoyed the play so much tonight, I wanted you to have this. It will help you study character and paint it with your pen. I would love to read what you're writing if you'll trust me. I promise honestly and whatever intelligence I can muster. Yours, Frederick. Joe opens the book and almost greedily begins to read. Cut to a Paris ballroom, a gorgeous Paris ball. Amy is lively and everyone's favorite at the party. She dances with Fred Vaughn most often and gossips with her sister and friends. She's charming to everyone. Suddenly, Amy sees something that makes her look sour, and we follow her gaze to see Laurie entering. He is loud, drunk, has two girls with him. They all fall into a sofa, laughing and loud. Amy frowns and approaches and stands before him.
Laurie,
Amy,
I waited an hour for you.
I feel caught. Amy, please.
Do you know what I honestly think of you?
What do you honestly think of me?
I despise you.
Why did you despise me?
Because with every chance for being good, useful, and happy, you are faulty and lazy and miserable.
It is interesting.
Selfish people do like to talk about themselves.
I'm selfish.
Yes, very selfish with your money and your talent and beauty and health.
Really?
Oh, you like that, you old vanity. All of these good things to enjoy, and you can find nothing but to dawdle.
He
I'll be good.
drunkenly puts his hand over hers.
I'll be good for you, Saint Amy. I'll be good.
Aren't you ashamed of a hand like that?
No, I'm not.
Looks like it's never done a day of work in its life, and that ring is ridiculous.
Joe gave me this ring.
I feel sorry for you. I really do. I just wish you'd bear it better.
You don't have to feel sorry for me, Amy. You'll feel the same way one day.
No. I'd be respected if I couldn't be left.
What work have you done lately, oh great artiste? Or have you been too busy imagining how you'll spend Fred Vaughn's fortune? Fred Vaughn, ladies and gentlemen.
Fred, I'm so sorry.
Cut to the boarding house drawing room. Frederick holds a few newspaper clippings and handwritten pages. Joe paces and watches him read nervously. He laughs. She smiles at his laughter. He finishes reading, puts down the work, and looks at her. Joe instantly feels that she needs to explain.
Those are just stories, of course, but I'm working on a novel.
And your novel, it will be like this?
Yes, so far anyway.
With plots like this, duels and killing.
It sells.
Why don't you sign your real name?
My mother wouldn't like it. It's too gory for her.
Yes?
I want to help with the money I make and not worry her.
I don't like them. Honestly, I think that they're not good.
But they're published in the papers, and people have always said I'm considered talented.
Oh, I think you're talented, which is why I'm being so blunt.
I can't afford to starve on praise.
Are you upset?
Of course I'm upset. You just told me you didn't like my work.
I thought you wanted honesty.
I do.
Has no one ever talked to you like this before?
I've been rejected plenty of times.
But do you have anyone to take you seriously, to talk to about your work?
And who made you high priest of what's good and what's bad?
No one, and I'm not.
Then why are you acting like it?
Your reaction indicates that you must think there is some truth in it.
My reaction indicates that you are a pompous blowhard. Shakespeare wrote for the masses.
He was the greatest poet who ever lived. He smuggled his poetry in popular works.
I'm no Shakespeare.
Thank goodness, we already have him.
If you know so much about it, why don't you do it yourself?
I'm not a writer. I don't have the gifts you have.
No, you don't. And you'll always be a critic, never an author, and the world will forget that you ever even lived. But no one,
I'm sure they will.
I'll be, but
Yeah.
no one will forget Joe Marsh.
I can believe that.
We are not friends. You are not my friend. And I don't want your opinion because I don't like you very much. So just don't talk to me anymore. Thank you.
Joe exits. Cut to New York City twilight that night. Joe, in fury and confusion, walks the streets, letting her feelings burn out. She strides through the entire night that way, like Charles Dickens' night walks. At the boarding house, after her walk, Mrs. Kirk hands Joe a telegram.
Josephine, this came for you.
Dear Joe, our Beth has taken a turn for the worse. Please come home as soon as you can.
Sorry. Beth.
Cut to the interior of a train. Joe drifts off to sleep, lulled by the movement. The country speeds past her as she goes forward towards her childhood that is now no longer her home, and to the past that she can no longer find. Return to the past. Joe Marsh is sleeping in her large, cozy writing chair, a blanket wrapped around her. Her fingers are stained with ink, and pages are strewn about her. Sounds of the day start to drift upstairs to her perch. Her eyes flutter open at the distant sound of Meg. Meg's muted.
Joe, where are you?
Do you like these garlands?
They're beautiful.
Merry Christmas, world.
Joe wraps the blanket around her and quietly opens the attic door and sneaks down, watching her sisters, her heart's joy, fussing over the decorations Amy has made.
Merry Christmas!
Joe, we've been up for hours.
What have you been writing?
I got carried away with our delicious revenge play last night. Poison!
No. Poison. It's Christmas.
Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents.
It's so dreadful to be poor.
I don't think it's fair for some girls to have lots of pretty things and other girls to have nothing at all.
At least we have father and mother and each other.
We haven't got father, and we won't have him for as long as this war drags on.
I wish I had heaps of money and plenty of servants so I never need to work again.
You could be a proper actress on the boards.
I can't be an actress.
They aren't all fallen women.
I have lots of wishes, but my favorite one is to be an artist and to go to Paris and do all the fine pictures that would be the best painter in the world.
That's what you want to do? Isn't it, Joe? To be a famous writer?
Yes, but it sounds so crass when she says it.
Why be ashamed of what you want?
I'm not.
My wish is to have all of us be together with father and mother in this house. That's what I want.
Beth is perfect.
What about your music, Queen Bess?
I only do that for us. I don't need anyone else to hear it.
You must not limit yourself.
Mother proposed not having any presents this Christmas because our men are suffering in the army. We can't do much, but we should make our little sacrifices and do it gladly.
Don't play mother just because she's not home.
Don't, Joe. It's so boyish.
That's why I do it.
I detest rude, unladylike girls.
I hate affected little chits.
Watch my nose. My nose. It's already no good.
I know you don't care what I think, but you don't want your mother to find you like this, do you?
Girls untangle and run after Hannah. She's a good-natured woman, old enough to be their grandmother.
Oh, of course we care what you think.
You're more family than wicked old Aunt March.
Don't, Joe.
Where's Marmee?
Goodness only knows. Some poor creature came a-begging, and your ma went straight off to see what was needed.
I wish you could help other people at a time convenient to us.
Joanna and I are very hungry.
Dolls don't get hungry, Beth.
I've rewritten the climax and we need to set it to memory. Amy, get the costumes.
I've made a divine hat. I painted those old shoes blue, and so she truly looks like a princess.
I think the melancholy piece I figured out is pretty good.
Beth goes to the piano and Joe hands out the pages.
Meg, wait until you see this new speech.
I don't see how you can write such splendid things, Joe. You're a regular Shakespeare.
Not quite. Miss Michelangelo, can you please rehearse the fainting scene? You're not as stiff as a poker. You're
can't-
stiff as a poker in that.
I can't help it. I never saw anyone faint, and I don't choose to make myself all black and blue. If I go down easy, I'll drop. If I can't, I shall fall into a chair and be graceful. So I don't care I don't care if Hugo does come at me with a pistol.
Hannah,
I'm not acting.
I didn't even say anything.
I knew what you were going to say, and I'm not acting.
Cut to the Concord of the March House. Marmee approaches her modest home and sees her girls laughing and rehearsing, joyfully playing make-believe. She fights tears and sadness about what we don't entirely know. We just know that what she does as a mother isn't free. Of course it's not. Nothing is ever free, even a joy a mother can make. Just before she flings open the door, she puts a smile on her face. Like so many mothers, she creates magic where there is none and enables her girls to be brave.
Merry Christmas, girls. I'm so glad to see you so happy.
Mother, are you freezing? Come have some tea.
Hannah and I made these cakes.
We finished the sewing.
Wait until you see my portrait.
They all worship their mother, and as she's talking, they follow her to the kitchen.
Joe, you look tired. Were you up again all night writing? Amy, come kiss me. How are my girls?
I'm so hungry.
I could eat a horse.
Stop it, Joe.
Get this breakfast.
What?
What is it?
Not far from here lives a poor young woman, Mrs. Hummel. Her 5 children are in one bed to keep from freezing, and there's nothing to eat. My girls, will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?
Is this where you say that Father would want us to?
Yes.
Cut to the Lawrence house. Mr. Lawrence sits with his grandson, Laurie, his grandson's tutor, Mr. Brooke. It is quiet and proper, the opposite of the merry mayhem of the March house.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for including me.
You're welcome. Perhaps you could tutor my grandson in matters as well as mathematics.
They both turn and look at Laurie, who watches the March women walk across the snow-covered field with their breakfast. Joe hits Amy with a snowball, and there is a general tussle.
What are they doing?
Cut to the Concord Church on Christmas Day. All of the proper people of Concord are entering the local church, serving God in the traditional manner. The March family walks by, actually doing the Christ-like thing instead of performing their faith. In the woods around the Hummel house, the girls make their way and finally find themselves outside of a shack that is so dilapidated that it is hardly standing. This is the Hummel house. The girls enter, tentative at first, around such wretched poverty. Mrs. Hummel is barely older than they are and frighteningly thin. Marmee shows no hesitation, immediately taking the infant into her arms.
Ach, mein Gott, it is good angels come to us.
I'm back. We brought food and blankets and sweaters, and we brought some medicine. These are my girls.
They all set about making the room less wretched, more homelike. Laurie comforts the baby, Meg takes 2 little children into her lap, Amy cleans and straightens, Beth covers the other children with blankets, and Joe sets up food. At the March dining room, freezing but happy, the women return and immediately see Hannah has arranged an unimaginable feast with candy and ice cream and cake. Hannah pulls Mrs. March aside while the girls marvel.
Is it fairies?
Santa Claus?
No, it's old Aunt March.
Mr. Lawrence sent it.
The Lawrence boy's grandfather? Why?
He saw you girls giving your Christmas breakfast away and wanted you to enjoy the day.
But I thought he was a mean old man.
That's so generous of him.
His grandson Laurie put the idea in his head. I know he did. We should make friends with him.
Boys scare me, and that big old house scares me.
Yeah. Jenny Snow says that Mr. Lawrence disowned his son after he went off with with an Italian woman. And now his grandson is an orphan and he spends all of his time in that house locked up with his tutor.
He's a very kind man who lost his little girl when he was only a child, when she was only a child, and now his son as well.
His daughter died? That's so sad.
But doesn't Laurie just seem so romantic? He's half Italian.
What do you know? You've never spoken to him.
Flowers in winter.
I'm not responsible for this feast, but I have got a surprise.
A letter?
From father.
Three
Is he coming
cheers!
home?
They all gather around Marmee, sitting her into her chair easily. This is clearly their tradition.
Poor
Don't I
Joe.
wish I could go?
Poor Joe. We can't give up our only brother.
It must be very disagreeable to sleep in that tent. Joe stands in the back so we can't see her cry.
So what if I do?
When will he come home?
He will stay and do his work faithfully as long as he can, and we won't ask for him back a minute sooner than he can be spared. Give them all my dear love and a kiss. Tell them I think of them by day, pray for them by night, and find my best comfort in their affection at all times.
As the letter is being read, we see the sisters put on the play they had been rehearsing, with Marmee and Hannah cheering them on. They perform for their neighborhood children. The children are entranced as Joe, dressed as Hugo with a black beard and mysterious cloak, boots, and a sword, calls out,
What ho! Minion, I need thee.
A year seems a very long time to wait before I see them, but remind them that while we wait, we may all work so that these hard days need not be wasted.
Meg enters as Hagar, the horrible old witch. A smoke effect and a well-done homemade costume make the audience gasp.
Born of roses, fed on dew, what charms and potions canst thou brew?
I know they will be loving children to you, do their duty faithfully, fight their enemies bravely.
Amy is the sprite and appears on top of a poorly constructed tree to give the illusion of flying.
Hither I come from my airy home, afar in the silver moo. Ah!
Don't laugh. Act like it's all right. Just keep going. Beth, play.
And conquer themselves so beautifully. Brava, brava.
The audience claps as the sisters bow, Joe gentlemanly, Meg demurely, Amy the diva, and Beth's small, quiet curtsy. One woman rises to her feet with her applause and shouts,
That when I come back to them, I may be fonder and prouder than ever of my little women.
Return to the present. On the train, the whistle blows. Joe is being gently shaken awake.
Your stop, ma'am.
Thank you.
At the boarding house, Mrs. Kirk is hanging laundry as Friedrich questions her. She's gone? Why?
I don't know. She just left.
But she didn't say if she was coming back?
We didn't have a heart-to-heart, Professor. What are you doing? Why are you just sitting there? Go dust something. And what about the girls? She said, or she was the best teacher they had.
I know. At the Concord Town Road, Jo, with her luggage, walks home on the familiar roads she knows so well. She breathes in the air and trudges onward. Return to the past. The four girls are walking the same road, bundled against the cold. The streets are more bustling, the atmosphere cozier. It is how childhood always is in memory, brighter and better. They are back to the daily task of making a living.
It's so hard to go back to work after such good times.
I wish it was Christmas every day.
Or New Year's, wouldn't that be exciting?
We're a bunch of ungrateful minxes.
Don't use such dreadful expressions.
I like good, strong words that mean something.
Well, I have to go to school and I don't have any limes.
Limes?
The other girls were all trading pickled limes. I'm in debt. I owe so many limes.
Will that do?
What did you do that for?
I know what it is to want little things and feel less than other girls.
Between that and the drawings, I should wipe out my debt.
What drawings?
Nothing.
I'm just glad that Mother doesn't make me go to that school with all those girls.
Beth, after your shopping, I need you to work your way through the new sums and spelling, and I'll check it all when I get home.
Hurry, I'll be late.
They break apart from each other at the fork in the road, Beth and Meg going one direction, Amy and Joe another. At Aunt March's house the same day, Joe hops over a fence and runs toward the house. Aunt March dozes, poodle in her lap, while Joe stands by the bookcase and surreptitiously reads her own book. She turns the page, trying to be as quiet as possible, but Aunt March has woken up.
Josephine!
Yes?
Josephine! Is there a reason you stopped reading Belsham?
I'm sorry, I'll continue.
You mind yourself, dearie. One day you'll need me and you'll wish you had behaved better.
Thank you, Aunt March, for your employment and many kindnesses, but I intend to make my own way in the world.
No one makes their own way. Not really. Least of all a woman. You'll need to marry well.
You are not married, Aunt March.
Well, that's because I was rich and made sure to keep my money.
So the only way to be an unmarried woman is to be rich.
Yes.
But there are precious few ways for women to make money.
That's not true. You could run a cat house or go on the stage. Practically the same thing. Other than that, you're right. Precious few ways for women. That's why you should heed me.
So I can get married.
No, so you can live a better life than your poor mother has.
Marmee loves her life.
You don't know what she loves. Your father cared more about educating Freeman's children than taking care of his family.
Yes, but he was right.
It is possible to be right and foolish.
I don't think so.
Well, you're not paid to think. I know you don't care much about marriage now. I can't say I blame you, but I intend to go to Europe one more time and I need a companion. How would you like to be the person I take?
I'd like that more than anything.
Then read. Don't sneak around. I don't like sneaks.
At a school the same day, during a break, one of the schoolgirls is whispering to Amy.
President Lincoln.
No, Father is fighting for him.
My father says the war is a waste and we should just let them keep their labor.
It's immoral.
Everyone benefited from the system, including you Marches. Why should only the South be punished?
Perhaps we should all be punished.
The Marches love a cause. Fine, just do Miss Davis.
I don't know if I should.
I'll wipe out your debt and give you five more limes besides.
Amy is seduced and instantly starts drawing the very good and accurate caricature. The girls giggle. Amy gets carried away, drawing a conversation bubble with words, "My eye is upon you, young ladies." More laughter. Suddenly a shadow falls over them, and all the girls look up, scared, and move away. Amy, however, is too wrapped up in the drawing to notice. When she does, Mr. Davis looks down sternly at her. Cut to Mr. Lawrence's house. Laurie tries very hard to study with his tutor, Mr. Brooke, but it is hopeless. Laurie keeps jumping up and distracting himself with something in the room. His most recent position is standing like a statue perched on a chair.
Sit down, Laurie. Latin is a privilege. Please, you have to learn this. I can't afford to lose this position. Just return to Cicero.
There's a girl out there.
No, there's not.
Yes, Mr. Brooke, there is a girl. Hello there. Are you hurt?
I'm Amy.
Hello, Amy. I'm Laurie.
I know. You brought my sister back from the dance. I would never have sprained my ankle. I have a lovely small feet, best in the family, but I can never go home again. I am in such trouble. Look.
He holds up a red and bleeding little hand.
Mr. Davis hit me.
In the Lawrence house, Amy, her hand now bandaged, is sitting looking at an art book, pretending to be a very fine lady.
Tell the service that I want this painting purchased for me immediately.
Laurie is laughing at such a confident girl. Amy likes making him laugh. Mr. Brooks is shaking his head, frustrated. A servant enters, followed by Joe and Meg.
She's in here.
Oh, Joe.
What richness! Theodore Lawrence, you ought to be the happiest boy in the world.
A fellow can't live on books alone.
I could.
Meg is tending to Amy, and Mr. Brooke can't help but stare at Meg, completely flummoxed by her beauty and goodness.
What happened, little lamb?
What did you do?
Just a drawing, and then Mr. Davis hit me.
Amy begins crying again and holds up her hand. Meg has taken off her gloves and puts them on a side table while she examines her sister's outstretched hand. Mr. Brooke eyes the gloves. He's drawn to the items so recently worn by Meg. Joe, who has been roaming the room, stops in front of a portrait of Mr. Lawrence, and Laurie follows her gaze.
Christopher Columbus, look at that.
That's my grandfather. Are you scared of him?
I'm not scared of anyone. He looks stern, but my grandfather was much more handsome.
Enter Mr. Lawrence with Mrs. March.
Joe, we do not compare grandfathers.
You think he's more handsome, hey?
Oh, no, you are very handsome. I didn't mean.
I knew your mother's father. You've got his spirit.
Thank you, sir.
You are not to attend that school anymore.
Good, that man has always been an idiot.
Joe will teach you.
Me? I already teach Beth.
You're a good teacher.
Yes, women being taught at home is much more proper, I believe.
Only because the school for women are so poor.
Indeed, quite right.
I wish all the girls would leave this horrible school and that he would die.
You did wrong, Amy, and there will be consequences. Thank you so much for taking care of Amy. My girls do have a way of getting into mischief.
So do I.
So then you should run over and we'll take care of you.
And please come here whenever you'd like. And tell Beth to come too.
Yes, Beth would adore the piano.
Is she the quiet one?
That's our Beth.
Tell the little girl to use our piano.
And Joe, borrow any book you'd like.
And may I come look at the paintings?
There's also a lovely greenhouse. We must be going. Girls?
Thank you.
Many thanks.
Our apologies.
The women leave, and Mr. Brooke notices Meg has left her glove behind.
Oh, Miss Meg, you forgot your glove.
The men are left standing in the silence of their absence. Mr. Lawrence breaks the spell.
Well, back to work, back to work.
Cut to the present and the March house. Joe looks towards the Lawrence's house, which is now dark and shutters are closed. It doesn't seem right without Laurie in it. She looks in the forest by the pond to find an old mailbox. She produces a key with a red ribbon and holds it in her hand. And we and she are transported again to the past. In the March attic, Meg, Beth, Joe, and Amy are all dressed as men with hats and spectacles and pipes. Meg is reading from the homemade newspaper in her lovely sonorous voice.
A new play written by Miss Jo March will appear at the Barnville Theater in the course of the next few weeks, which will surpass anything ever seen before on the American stage.
Starring the greatest actress from here to the Mississippi River, Miss Meg March.
Weekly report. Meg, good. Joe, bad. Beth, very good. Amy, middling.
Excellent.
Well done, sirs.
Mr. President and gentlemen, I wish to propose the admission of a new member, one who highly deserves the honor, would be deeply grateful, and would add immensely to the spirit of the club. I propose Mr. Theodore Lawrence.
Absolutely not.
Come on, let's have him.
He's a real boy.
We don't want any boys. This is a club for ladies.
I think we should do it, even if we are afraid. I say yes, it's Laurie.
Now then, everybody wrote, and remember that it's our Laurie, and say I.
I.
And as there is no time like the present,
Joe throws open the doors of the closet, and Laurie is there, already dressed for the occasion.
You traitor.
You rogue.
Ladies, please. This is all my stratagem. I deserve the blame. Joe only gave into it after lots of teasing.
You're here.
I merely wish to say that as a slight token of my gratitude and as a means of promoting friendly relations between adjoining nations, I propose this set of keys for a little post office I've made in the forest by the pond. Allow me to present 4 copies of the key, and with many thanks for your favor, take my seat as part of the club.
He lays the 4 keys with different colored ribbons before them and bows again, and they all cheer. Return to the present March house. Joe holds the very same key and opens the post office box. Nothing, of course. She shuts it back up, trudges home. In and is immediately surrounded by Hannah, Meg, Marmee, and they unload her bags and sit her in a chair and pepper her with questions.
Hello.
Thank God you're home.
Oh, Joe, I've missed you.
We could have come to get you.
Daisy and Demi, you've gotten so big.
I wish you were here to teach them.
I'm here now.
It's so good to have you home. I think the loneliness got to Beth, though she ain't said anything.
Beth, where's Beth?
She's upstairs. Oh my Joe, we all thought she was better, but the fever had weakened her heart.
Take this and find her the best doctor you can.
No, you need this money to live in New York.
I'm not going back. I'm using the rest to take her to the sea and get her strong. When is Amy coming home?
We didn't want to worry her.
Does she not know?
Beth insisted we not tell her because she didn't want to ruin Amy's trip.
Amy has always had a talent for getting out of the hard parts of life.
Joe, don't be angry with your sisters.
Return to the past March house. Joe, in her and Meg's room, places a pretty cover page on top of the novel she has written. She lovingly writes, "For Father." And here's
Joe! Joe, where are you? I can't find my other glove.
Take mine.
Joe puts her novel carefully in a drawer that is filled with her other finished writing and closes it.
Joe, we're going to be late.
Where are you going?
You're not invited.
You're going somewhere with Lori. I know it.
Yes, we are. Now stop bothering.
Do you have the tickets?
Yes, hurry up.
You're going to the theater with Lori. Meg, please, can I come?
I'm sorry, dear, but you weren't invited.
You can't go, Amy, so don't be a baby and whine about it.
I have been shut up in here and I never get to go anywhere. Beth has her piano, but I'm so lonely.
I can teach you chords.
I don't want chords. I want to go to the theater.
No, I think you'd hate to poke yourself in where you're not wanted. We already have to deal with dull Mr. Brooke.
I like him. He's kind.
I'll pay for myself.
You will not come.
I'm sorry, my sweet, but Joe is right. Next time.
Come, Meg, stop petting her.
You'll be sorry for this, Joe March. You will. You'll regret this.
Cut to the theater. Joe and Meg are watching the play, which is a campy vaudeville-like of a thing. They are completely engaged in the proceedings. The men are watching them. Lori looks at Joe while Mr. Brooke looks at Meg. In Joe and Meg's room, Amy sneaks into Joe and Meg's room and searches every drawer and hiding place for the novel that she knows is there. She finally finds it in the bureau. She pulls out the novel that Joe has just lovingly placed there. In the theater, as they leave, Mr. Brooke offers Meg his arm, and she takes it. Joe notices and doesn't like it at all. Lori sees Joe's expression and offers his own arm in mock chivalry. She punches him in the shoulder and then races up, taking her sister's other arm, pulling her away from Mr. Brooke. In the kitchen, Amy places page after page into the fire, watching it burn and feeling nothing but terrific about it. In the March living room, Meg and Joe are waltzing in. Beth is playing with her dolls, and Amy is sitting and reading, suspiciously quiet. Joe sprints upstairs.
Meg, you're a million times better than she was, although she was a terrific fainter.
I wonder how she managed to turn white as she did.
Ugh, that Mr. Brooke, could he be any more obsequious?
I thought he was very well mannered.
Hold on, let me just get this idea down.
Beth, what's your favorite eye color?
Purple.
Mr. Brooke has blue eyes and an old soul, which is much more important than money.
Has anyone taken my novel?
No,
No, why?
Amy, you've got it.
No, I haven't.
That's a lie.
It isn't. I haven't got it. I don't know where it is, and I don't care.
Tell me or I'll make you.
Joe, don't. Marmee,
I burn it up. I burn it up your book. I told you I'd make you pay, and I did.
You wicked girl. You wicked, wicked girl. I can never write it again. I'll never forgive you as long as I live.
They are fighting and full out fighting during these last lines, and as their sisters and Marmee attempt to stop it. In Joe's room, Joe is weeping, Beth cradling her head. Meg holds her hand. Marmee enters with Amy, who looks penitent. Marmee nods at her as if to say, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Amy?
It's just that the only thing you care about is your writing, so it's not as if I could hurt you by ruining one of your dresses, and I really did want to hurt you. I am most sorry for it now. I'm so sorry.
Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Forgive her. Help each other, and you begin again tomorrow.
She doesn't deserve my forgiveness. I will hate her. I will hate her forever.
In the March House kitchen the next morning, it is a very tense breakfast. Joe's eyes are red and puffy, and a remorseful Amy tries to sit beside her and make peace. But Joe changes seats away from her. Amy looks pleadingly toward Meg. Laurie bursts open the back door, unaware of all this trouble.
Good morning, ladies. It's brisk and brilliant, and I think the last day for the river. Get your ice skates.
Joe springs up, thrilled to have something to do.
1 second. Go down and I'll be right there.
I want to come too. Last time you promised I could go.
Joe ignores and grabs her skates and races out.
Is she going to be like this forever?
It was a very hard loss for her.
Is there nothing I can do?
go after her. Don't say anything till Joe has got good nature with Laurie. Then take a quiet minute and just kiss her or do some kind thing, and I'm sure she'll be friends again.
Amy grabs her skates. On the river during the day, Amy runs out of the house, calling after.
Wait for me, please.
Joe still pretends not to hear and skates near the edge while Laurie tests the ice. Amy is just getting to the riverbank and waving and calling.
Hello, wait for me.
Stay near the edge. It's not safe in the middle.
Joe hesitates for a moment and looks at Amy, who struggles with her skates. It's not clear whether or not she heard Laurie. Joe opens her mouth to say something, but changes her mind. The anger in her heart has made her small and mean.
Ready?
Joe takes off down the ice, jumping the gun, and Laurie races after her. Meanwhile, Amy tentatively steps onto the ice. She begins gliding, arms out, a young and less experienced skater. Farther along the river, Laurie and Joe are trying tricks and spins when Joe suddenly feels a pang of guilt. She plows into Laurie, toppling him. They are both laughing when just a moment later, crack! The sound of ice splitting and a high.
Help! Help!
Amy.
Laurie and
It's
Joe
Amy.
freeze and look at each other. Race back, Joe sending up a breathless prayer, a pleading with the universe.
Oh God. Oh God. Dear God, please. No.
Joe
No.
is almost. Laurie leaps in action.
Joe, get a branch.
Joe obeys quickly, blindly, using the incredible strength that is available to people in times of. Joe drags a large branch over to Lori, who stretches it over to Amy.
Joe,
He does, and
hold on.
Lori and Joe both lie flat on their stomachs so as not to disturb the eye. As they pull together, Joe is terrified, but keeping herself together to get Amy to safety. The effort makes her own hands bleed. She and Lori give one last pull, and Amy is back on firm ground. Tears are streaming down Joe's face as she strips off all her warm clothes and bundles them around Amy.
My sister, dear God, thank you for my sweet sister.
Return to the March house. In Amy and Beth's bedroom, Amy is asleep, covered in blankets. Joe is slumped down on the floor beside her, not even feeling herself worthy of a chair. Marmee adjusts Amy's blanket and then looks at Joe and decides to take a seat beside her on the floor.
She's asleep.
If she had died, it would have been my fault.
She'll be fine. The doctor said he didn't even think she'd catch a cold.
What is wrong with me? I've made so many resolutions and written sad notes and carried over my sins, but it doesn't seem to help. When I get in a passion, I get so savage. I could hurt anyone and enjoy it.
You remind me of myself.
But you're never angry.
I'm angry nearly every day of my life.
You are?
I'm not patient by nature, but with nearly 40 years of effort, I've learned to not let it get the better of me.
I'll do the same then.
I hope you'll do a great deal better than me. There are some natures too noble to curb, too lofty to bend.
The two women sit beside each other as Amy sleeps. Joe puts her head on Marmee's shoulder. Return to the present in Beth's room. Joe is sitting by the bed and watches over Beth as she did for Amy. She attempts to write while Beth sleeps. She keeps crossing things out. She's divinely dissatisfied. She gives up and picks up one of Amy's letters. And as she's reading, Beth opens her eyes and sees Joe sitting there.
Joe,
Oh, Beth, my love.
you didn't need to come.
I never should have left. Do you need anything? Here, take some water.
It's so good to see your face.
We're going to the sea to get you strong and well.
The sea?
I want you dancing by the time Amy gets back.
She's not cutting her trip short, is she?
No.
Good. Is there any news? What does she say?
She writes that Lori is there. I'm glad he's with her. He won't respond to any of my letters.
Do you miss him?
I miss everything.
I know.
Return to the past at the Lawrence house. Meg is saying goodbye to everyone as she sets off for her adventure to visit Annie Moffat. Mr. Brooke is carrying her baggage. Hannah and the sisters and Marmee are helping with the odds and ends. Lori is boxing with Joe, and Mr. Lawrence is there in his proper overseeing things kind of way.
Hurry up, you two. Meg is going to be gone for a week.
Coming.
You take the other carriage and surprise her. Make sure she doesn't fall in love.
Yes, Captain Joe.
It was so kind of Annie to invite me. Thank you for letting me go, Marmee.
Just be who you are, my sweet Meg. It was mine when I was your age.
Oh, Mother, thank you.
I've never understood saving jewelry until marriage. Pretty things should be enjoyed.
Yes, pretty things should be enjoyed.
Joe places the ring in Lori's hand.
I wish I could go to the debutante ball.
Do you think this is a good idea, her going away like this? Girls have to go out in the world and make up their minds about things.
Don't forget about us.
I won't, Joe. It's only a week.
She needs to have some decent shoes.
Thank you again for the carriage, Mr. Lawrence. I don't know how to repay you.
Oh, nonsense. Although there is one thing.
Anything.
For 1 second, Mr. Lawrence's eyes flick to Beth, but then he directs his comments to Marmee.
It occurred to me today that my daughter's piano suffers from want of use.
Does it?
Wouldn't one of your girls like to run over and practice on it now and then, just to keep it in tune? If they don't care to come, why? Never mind.
Oh, sir, they do care very, very much.
Are you the musical girl?
I love it dearly, and I'll come if you are quite sure nobody will hear me and be disturbed.
Not a soul, my dear. Drive on and keep her safe.
Meg is pulled away by a carriage and waves goodbye to everyone. They run down the road after her. At Annie Moffat's house, Meg arrives at the very grand and beautiful place and suddenly feels quite self-conscious in her clothes. At the Lawrence house, Mr. Lawrence is watching from an upper window as a very timid Beth tries to walk bravely across the lawn. She stops and turns back and walks towards her house and then turns around again, finally making it all the way to the Lawrence house. At the Moffat house, all the other girls are in their fabulous dresses, parading up the grand staircase. Meg trails in her plain dress.
And what dress will you wear tonight, Meg?
I will wear this one.
That one, can't you send home for another?
I haven't got another.
Only the one? That's so funny.
Not at all. There's no need of sending home, Daisy. I'm gonna call you Daisy now. I've got a sweet pink dress laid away, and you will wear it to please me, won't you, Daisy?
If it's all right.
Of course.
The Lawrence house, Beth enters and makes her way to the conservatory, looking at the piano with love. At the Moffat house, all the young men are in their tuxedos and wait for the young women to descend down the grand staircase. Their parents watch proudly. The young ladies walk down the stairs like fancy Easter eggs. Meg, the most beautiful of all, is a triumph. At the Moffat house, Meg is done up nearly beyond recognition. She's powdered and corseted and drinking and flirting. In fact, she's kind of great at it.
Oh, everyone is in love with you, Daisy. You have to keep my dress.
I can't keep your dress.
Suddenly, Laurie is standing.
Have fun, little Daisy.
Laurie, I didn't know you were going to come.
It was supposed to be a surprise.
And what a lovely surprise it is.
Why are they calling you Daisy?
It's their pet name for me.
Meg is a perfectly good name.
It's just like playing a part to be Daisy for a little while.
What would Joe say? You wouldn't actually marry one of these men, would you?
I might.
That champagne will give you a terrible headache tomorrow.
It's a good thing that it's still tonight then. Do you like the way I look?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I don't like fuss and feathers.
You are the rudest boy I've ever saw.
Meg is angry and hurt. Anna elegantly hands him her champagne and accepts a dance with a boy standing nearest. Back to the Lawrence house, a very nervous Beth sits down and sees the sheet of music in front of her. At first, she is tentative, trying to play quietly, but soon she plays with abandon. She is on fire. Mr. Lawrence, sitting on the stairs, is deeply moved by Beth's music. Tears stream down his face. In the Moffat ballroom, Meg feels faint from the corset and the champagne and leans her head against a cool window pane, hot and ashamed. Laurie comes and sits beside her.
Please forgive me and come dance.
I'm afraid it would be too disagreeable for you.
I don't like your dress, but I think you are just splendid.
I know it's silly, but please don't tell Joe. Let me have my fun tonight. I'll be desperately good for the rest of my life.
The two of them are now dancing and looking young and sincere and terrific. They whirl and spin and laugh, and the music plays on as the picture returns to the present. In Meg's house, Meg sits scared and ashamed, and John, Mr. Brooke, intelligent and kind and handsome, examines the two ledger books. He struggles to understand.
I'm sorry, John. The silk was the first real expense.
$50, while a lot, is not, I suppose, too much for a dress with all the notions that are needed to finish it these days?
Well, it's not exactly even addressed yet. It's just the fabric.
Oh, I see.
I know you were angry, John. I don't mean to waste your money, but I can't resist it when I see Sally buying all she wants and pitying me because I don't. I try to be contented, but it's hard and I'm tired of being poor.
I was afraid of this. I do my best, Meg.
Oh, John, my dear, kind, hardworking boy, I didn't mean it. I was so wicked, so untrue and ungrateful. How could I say it?
Perhaps you meant it.
No, not a bit. We'll figure out a way to get you your coat as well, and then won't we be grand, the two of us?
I can't afford it, my dear.
John, but
I need to go to bed. And I really am very sorry that I have to do without that you have to do without so many beautiful things, and that you're married to someone who can't give them to you.
He leaves and she is terrified that she's broken the man she loves so much. In a Paris artist's studio, Amy is looking through her own paintings and sketches and has a disturbed expression on her face. Laurie enters. His lot in life is always to be apologizing to one March sister or another, and he looks truly contrite.
Hello, Amy.
I don't want to see you.
Oh, Amy, I'm so sorry for how I behaved. Please forgive me.
Have you been drinking again?
Only a little, and it's 4 p.m. You can't be too hard on me.
Someone has to do it.
So when do you begin your great work of art, Rafaela?
Never.
What? Why?
I'm a failure. Joe's in New York being a writer, and I am a failure.
That's quite a statement to make at 20.
Rome took all the vanity out of me, and Paris made me realize I'd never be a genius. I'm giving up all of my foolish artistic hopes.
Why should you? You have so much talent and energy.
Talent isn't genius, and no amount of energy can make it so. I want to be great or nothing. I won't be a commonplace dauber, so I don't intend to try anymore.
What women are allowed into the club of geniuses anyway?
The Brontes?
That's it?
I think so.
And who always declares geniuses?
Well, men, I suppose.
And they're cutting down the competition.
It's a very complicated argument to make me feel better.
Do you, though? Feel better?
I do think that male or female, I'm middling talent.
Middling talent? Then may I ask your last portrait be of me?
All right.
And now that you've given up all your foolish artistic hopes, what are you going to do with your life?
Polish up my other talents and be an ornament to society.
Here's where Fred Vaughn comes in, I suppose.
Don't make fun.
Said his name. I'm not. You're not engaged, I hope.
No.
But you will be if he goes down properly on one knee.
Most likely, yes. He's rich. Richer than you even.
I understand queens of society can't get on without money, but it does sound odd coming from one of your mother's girls.
I've always known that I would have to marry rich. Why should I be ashamed of that?
There is nothing to be ashamed of, as long as you love him.
Well, I believe we have some power over who we love. It isn't something that just happens to a person.
I think the poets might disagree.
Well, I'm not a poet. I'm just a woman. And as a woman, I have no way to make money. Not enough to earn a living and support my family. Even if I had my own money, which I don't, it would belong to my husband the minute we were married. And if we had children, they would belong to him, not me. They would be his property. So don't sit there and tell me that marriage isn't an economic proposition, because it is. It may not be for you, but it most certainly is for me.
The carriage approaches.
That will be Fred now. How do I look? Do I look all right?
Laurie looks at her, really looks at her for the first time.
You look beautiful. You are beautiful.
She suddenly blushes, but smiles in thanks, and then runs off to greet Fred. From the top of the staircase, Lori looks at her and Fred embrace, not sure what he's feeling. Return to the past, a beach during the day. On a perfect spring day, Lori, playing the host, makes the introductions of the British family to the March women. And he introduces Fred Vaughn, who of course we already know as Amy's potential husband.
This is Fred Vaughn and his sister Kate, and of course you know Mr. Brooks. And this is Meg, Amy, Beth, and Joe.
So pleased to meet you.
Oh, how elegant. Remember the name, Amy March. I'm going to come find you one day in London.
Oh, certainly I will.
We see kites, badminton, and the ocean. A badminton game between Fred and Amy on one team and Joe and Lori on the other, while Beth cheers on both sides. Sally tries to impress Kate and flirt with Fred. Fred tries to flirt with Joe, who kicks him. Everyone flies kites. Joe and Lori run into the ocean. Amy settles with a sketch pad, drawing Lori. This is the picture we will see later. Mr. Brooks and Meg are talking and flirting and skipping stones and generally being adorable and have that look of intimacy. Joe, trying to practice her badminton skills, keeps looking over at Meg, who gazes at Mr. Brooke adoringly. This annoys Joe. Lori sees her and comes and whispers in her ear.
I know something you don't know.
Tell me this second.
Has Meg perhaps mislaid a glove?
Mr. Brooke has it? How do you know?
Saw it.
Where?
Pocket.
All this time?
Yes, isn't it romantic?
No, it's horrid.
I thought you'd be pleased.
The idea of anybody coming to take Meg away? No, thank you.
You'll feel better about it when somebody comes to take you away.
I'd like to see anyone try it.
So would I.
We could never have loved the earth so well if we had had no childhood in it. If it were not the earth where the same flowers come up again every spring. Sorry, I'm just trying to process this. We could never have loved the earth so well if we had had no childhood in it. If it were not the earth where the same flowers come up again every spring that we used to gather with our tiny fingers.
We've returned to the present. At a seashore, Beth is wrapped up and looking at the sea, and Joe reads George Eliot's The Mill on the Floss. The beach is emptier, darker, colder. The beach of their adulthood without the gloss of memory.
What novelty is worth that sweet monotony where everything is known and loved because it is known? How great is that?
I love to listen to you read, Joe, but I love it even better when you read the stories you've written.
I don't have any new stories.
Why not?
I haven't written any.
You have a pencil and paper. Sit here and write me something.
I can't. I don't think I can anymore.
Why?
It's just, no one even cares to hear my stories anyway.
Well, write something for me. You're a writer, even before anyone knew or paid you. I'm very sick, and you must do what I say. Do what Marmee taught us to do. Do it for someone else.
Joe is quiet. Sometimes it's hard when someone knows you. We return to the past. A Union Army Soldiers Fund during the day. Men and a handful of women are busily working in a converted warehouse with soldiers, veterans, and volunteers.
If you're walking to Vermont, there is Mrs. Sewell in Keene, New Hampshire, who will give you room and board.
You can go home to the girls. I can take care of this.
I need to be here. I spent my whole life ashamed of my country.
No offense meant, but you should still be ashamed.
I know, I am.
An older man with worn age grief approaches her table. He is almost too shy to talk to her. She sees him and puts him at ease.
Can I help you, sir?
Hello, ma'am.
Have you sons in the Army?
Yes, ma'am. I had 4, but 2 were killed. One is a prisoner, and I'm going to the other, who was very sick in the Washington hospital.
You've done a great deal for your country, sir.
Not a mite more than I ought, ma'am. I'd go myself if I was any use. As I ain't, I give my voice.
Marmee fights off tears, busying herself with arranging a charity bundle for him. She notices that he doesn't have a good scarf, so she gives him her own, careful that he doesn't see this kindness. As she does this, a soldier walks up.
Mrs. March? Yes. Telegram from Washington, ma'am. Totally.
He holds a telegram, the one that Marmee dreads. Returned to the March family home, everything is topsy-turvy in the house, anxious and worried. Hannah and Meg run about getting everything ready. Beth cries but tries not to. Amy packs her mother's trunk.
Is Joe back yet from Aunt March?
No, I haven't seen her.
I can't miss the last train.
Enter Lawrence and Lori.
What can I do?
If I may be of any assistance, please tell me. I will look in on you girls every day without fail.
Thank you for everything.
I have always admired your husband, and I pray for a quick recovery.
Meg is running through the hallway and bumps into Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks.
I'm sorry.
I came to offer myself as escort to your mother. Mr. Lawrence has commissions for me in Washington, and it'll give me real satisfaction to be of service to her there.
Meg spontaneously kisses him and looks at him with pure gratitude.
Thank you.
While I'm gone, Hannah's in charge, and please remember to check on the Hummels, and it'll be difficult winter for everyone.
Enter Joe, rushing in.
Will this be enough for the train?
$25? This isn't like Aunt March to be so generous.
I didn't go to Aunt March. Couldn't bear to.
Where did you get the money?
I only sold what was my own.
Joe removes her hat, and beneath all of her beautiful long hair is gone. Now it's just a short, blunt crop. Gasps from everyone.
Your hair.
Ow.
You're one beauty.
Now your hair is all. You look like a boy.
It doesn't affect the fate of the nation, so don't wail.
I am so proud that you are my daughter.
I was crazy to do something for father. It will be good for my vanity anyway.
Joe runs for Lori. They both ruffle each other's hair.
My girls, I love you more than words can say. Be good to each other. Pray for father's recovery. I will come back as soon as I can.
They all watch solemnly. In the house, Joe sits alone in the hallway, quietly weeping to herself. She tries to make as little noise as possible, but a door opens and Amy walks out.
Oh, Joe, is it father?
No, it's my hair.
I would feel the same way.
I know you would.
The two sisters, so different, sit and comfort each other. We return to the present in Paris, in a garden. Lori lazily lolls on the grass of the beautiful estate while Amy sketches him. A peace has settled over them. They're friends again. Amy gives him a hard time.
Lori, when are you going back to your grandfather?
Very soon.
You said that a dozen times the past month.
Short answers save trouble.
He expects you, so why don't you do it?
Oh, natural depravity, I suppose.
Natural insolence, you mean?
I'll only plague him if I go, so I might as well stay and plague you a little longer.
He jumps up and they play together.
And you can bear it. In fact, I think it agrees with you.
What are you doing?
Looking at you.
No, I mean, what do you intend to do?
Oh, you mean with life?
Yes.
I've been writing an opera. I'd be the central figure, of course.
That's a waste of time.
What would you have me do?
Go back to work for your grandfather and make something of yourself. Here.
Lori comes and looks at the sketch and sees beside it from years ago, young and full of happiness.
When did you do this one?
It was the day at the beach when I met Fred for the first time.
When is he coming back?
A week or two. He has business in London.
Don't marry him.
What?
Don't marry him.
Why?
You know why.
No, Lori, that's mean. It's just mean of you.
Why?
I have been second to Joe my whole life and everything, and I will not be the person you settle for just because you cannot have her. I won't do it. Not when. I want to spend my entire life loving you.
We return to the past. Amy has her foot in a bucket of plaster, working on making a mold. Meg is reading a letter, smiling to herself. Joe writing another story. Beth finishes a pair of slippers from Mr. Lawrence. The room is messy. They've let things slide since their mother has gone. It was never a neat house, but now it definitely isn't. The inmates are running the asylum.
I'm making a mold of my foot for Lori to remind him I have nice feet.
Mr. Brooke writes that father is still very weak but improving. Mr. Brooke also says mother is the best nurse a man could have.
I wish all the letters were from Mother and not Mr. Brooke.
I'm grateful for any letters.
I think the deep purple is very fitting for Mr. Lawrence. Do you agree, Amy?
Quite. And the design is very cunning.
I had to thank him somehow for allowing me to play the piano at his house all the time.
I'll go into town for groceries, Joe. Can you go and look into getting more firewood?
You all haven't been to see the Hummels. We should go.
Oh, Bethy, we barely have enough to feed ourselves. Besides, I have to finish the story.
Marmee said that
Marmee said so many things we can't possibly do them all.
But I always go by myself and you haven't been keeping up with your tasks.
We work.
Don't worry, sweet girl. We'll find a time.
But it's been weeks.
We'll go soon.
My foot is stuck. I can't get it out.
Fine, I'll go by myself.
Cut to the Lawrence house. Beth gives her slippers wrapped up to a servant. In the Hummel house, Beth is all alone with a basket of supplies, making her way towards Hummel's. A baby is crying, panicked and sick. At the March house, Beth is returning home and walking slowly and feeling strange. Her sisters' heads bob up and down in the window.
Here she comes.
Beth
Here's a
walks-
letter for the old gentleman.
Beth, look what they got you.
Joe clamps a hand over Amy's mouth. Meg takes Beth's arm and leads her to where the old piano used to stand, and in its place, a beautiful new piano forte.
Look!
Open the notes.
Joe, read it. I cannot.
Miss Beth March, I have had many pairs of slippers in my life, but I never had any that suited me so well as yours, and they will always remind me of the gentle giver. I'd like to pay my debts, and I hope you will accept this gift. Your grateful friend and humble servant, James Lawrence. Oh, Beth!
Humble servant, how lovely.
See the cunning brackets to hold the candles? And nice green silk.
They are so absorbed in the piano that they almost don't notice that Beth has gotten up and walks straight over to the Lawrence's house. At the house, timid Beth walks straight up to the house and then to Mr. Lawrence's office and tries to see.
Sir, I wanted to thank you.
Words are lost, and she throws her arms around him. He accepts the hug like he's been waiting for it his whole life.
You remind me so much of my little girl. The piano is yours. I should have given it to you a long time ago. My child, you're burning.
The Hummels are very sick.
Outside of Beth's room, Beth is in her bed, and she's delirious with fever. A doctor looks over, then consults with the girls and Hannah.
She's resting.
How is she? Is there anything I can do?
What is it?
Scarlet fever.
What's scarlet fever?
I visited the Hummels. The baby has died. Have you?
Meg and I have, but Amy hasn't.
She'll have to be sent away.
I don't want to be sent away.
I'll see if Aunt March can take her.
I don't like Aunt March.
It's for your own good, child.
Should we send for Mother?
No, we shouldn't worry her. I've never wished for more money more than now.
We'll nurse her and she'll get better. You'll see. She will. She must.
Turn to the present. Jo is reading a story at the seashore for Beth that she has written herself. Finishing the last lines.
The post office in the forest was a capital little institution and flourished wonderfully, for many things passed through it. Poetry and pickles, tragedies, garden seeds and long letters, music and gingerbread, invitations, scoldings, and even puppies.
It's all about us.
It is.
I love it.
It's just a little story.
It's nothing like what you usually write.
You don't think it's too boring?
No, it's my favorite one yet.
Really?
Write me another.
Yes, ma'am.
And keep writing them.
I will.
Even when I'm not here.
No, don't say that. Don't say it.
I have to tell you.
No, you don't.
I've had a very long time to think about this, and I'm not afraid.
No.
It's like the tide going out. It goes out slowly, but it can't be stopped.
I'll stop it. I've stopped it before.
Return to the past. Jo is sitting in a vigil and puts cold towels on Beth's hot forehead.
You will get better. Father will get better. And we'll all be together soon.
We can't stop God's will.
God hasn't met my will yet. What Jo wills shall be done.
At Aunt March's house, Amy is working very diligently on her French and her painting. Aunt March notices the quiet little girl and admires her.
Amy, come here.
Yes?
Come sit. If you are very good, one day this ring will belong to you.
Really?
You just keep being a proper young lady and see if it doesn't. You're your family's hope now. Beth is sick. Jo is a lost cause. And I hear Meg has had her head turned by a penniless tutor. It'll be up to you to support them all and your parents in their old age. So you must marry well and save your family. That's all I wanted to say. You can go finish your little painting.
Amy stands up and walks out of the one room in the past to another room in the present. In the present, Amy rushes in, excited, to Aunt March taking her tea.
Hello, Aunt March.
That Lawrence boy was just here.
He was?
What a disappointment he's turned out to be. It must be the Italian.
When will you be back?
He's gone to London. Why? What do you need to discuss with him?
We briefly flash to a country scene in the Paris exurbs. From a distance, we see Fred and Amy walking. Suddenly, Fred drops to one knee and offers Amy his hand, and she drops it. Back to Aunt March.
I've just told Fred Vaughn that I wouldn't marry him.
At the March house, Meg is watching over Beth, who is getting weaker by the day. Jo comes up with a bowl of soup and touches Meg on the shoulder, relieving her.
Meg.
Meg and John are talking, tentative after their quarrel.
I'll come home to help with the children. I'm sorry.
Hey, I asked for leave.
John.
I'll take care of the children. And here's one thing, you should send your fabric to the dressmaker as soon as possible.
But I can't.
No, don't say another word. I won't hear it. I want you to have that dress. My old coat will be fine for the winter.
John, it's
all settled.
No, John, I really can't. I sold the fabric to Sally.
You did?
Yes.
I don't want you to be unhappy.
I couldn't be. John Brooke is my husband, and I am his wife.
In the March house in Beth's room from the window, Jo watches the loving scene, feeling happy for her sister, and also a pang of loneliness. Suddenly a crash. The soup bowl clatters to the floor. Beth's fever is high, and she's knocked everything off the bed. Joe flies to her side, feeling her forehead and calling.
Hannah!
Return to the past. Just as in the present, Beth has gotten worse.
What do we do?
We should send for your mother.
In the present, Joe lays in bed with Beth. In the past, Marmee enters with Lori and goes straight to Beth. She's gone from a sick husband to a sick daughter, but she brings cheerful efficiency to a terrifying situation.
You were right to send for me, my girls, but you've been very good nurses indeed.
It's mostly been Joe. She's hardly slept.
I didn't know what else to do.
Hannah, go make clear broth and Joe get ice. We need to cool her.
Who is with father?
John is staying with him. We need to change the linens.
Return to the present. Meg and Joe and Marmee take turns and shifts, making sure that Beth is as comfortable as she can be. When it is Joe's turn, Beth is very weak, barely able to hold her head up.
Don't go quietly. Fight. Please fight to the end. Be loud. Don't just quietly go away.
Joe is sitting and watching and drops off to sleep, her head on the bed, her hand grasping Beth's. Beth opens her eyes and looks down at Joe and smiles, closes her eyes again and drifts away. In the past, Joe jerks suddenly away. She doesn't see Beth in the bed. She rises and with growing panic screams.
Marmee! Marmee!
She rushes downstairs to find Beth sitting up with her mother and Hannah eating. She cries with joy and kisses Beth's head.
Merry Christmas, Beth.
In the March living room, it is Christmas time again. Amy, standing on a chair, supervises all the decorations. Mr. Lawrence and Marmee sit by the fire, and Beth on the couch with her doll. Joe runs around with Hannah, setting the table for their feast. At just that moment, Laurie pops his head in and with wild excitement in his eyes announces.
And here's another Christmas gift for the March family.
It's his father. Supported by Mr. Brooke, mayhem breaks out. The Beth sisters start crying. Amy falls off a chair. Marmee gasps. Joe drops a dish. All the girls run to him and surround him in a hug.
My little woman, how you've grown. How proud I am of you, each of you. Merry Christmas, my dears.
He looks over them to Marmee, who is gazing back with love. She wasn't sure that this moment would come for her, and she can hardly believe she has her family together. He steps out of his daughters and hugs and embraces his wife.
Thank God you're home. Now I can be angry with you in person.
At the Christmas dinner with everyone, including the Lawrences and Mr. Brooke, gathered around the table, it is the finest day any one of them has ever had, and the joy radiates across the chilly Christmas night. Return to the present in Beth's room. Joe jerks awake to find Beth gone. She goes downstairs and sees Marmee there. Joe looks at Marmee and her mother for the first time in Joe's life. Great. Joe becomes the parent at that moment, comforting her mother, who is trapped in the unimaginable pain of losing a child. Cut to a graveyard in 1869. The March family, mother and father and Joe, Meg and John, with their arms around each other and Hannah, they have all gathered to lay their Beth to rest on an impossibly beautiful day. The party walks away, each with their own pain. Joe stays, unable to leave Beth's side, even in death. Meg makes to go approach her. But John pulls Meg closer. Meg nods, and she is grateful to him, grateful that she married this man who can be there for her. Joe cries alone. She cannot comprehend how the world keeps spinning when her Beth is gone. We go from the emptiness of the grief to the past. In the March house in 1865, a beautiful day, full of flowers and sunlight. Outside, Beth and Amy are arranging decorations and laughing. Inside, Meg prepares for her wedding, with Joe helping her, placing her flowers in her sister's hair.
I can't believe today is my wedding day.
Me neither.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
Joe.
We can leave. We can leave right now.
What?
I can make money. I'll sell stories. I'll do anything. Cook, clean, work in a factory. I can make a life for us.
But Joe.
And you should be an actress and have a life on the stage. Let's run away together.
I want to get married.
Why?
I love him.
You will be bored of him in 2 years, and we will be interesting forever.
Just because my dreams are not the same as yours doesn't mean they're unimportant. I want a family and a home, and I'm not scared of working and struggling, but I want to do it with John.
I just hate that you're leaving me.
Oh, Joe, I'm not leaving you. Besides, one day it will be your turn.
I'd rather be a free spinster and paddle my own canoe. I can't believe childhood is over.
It was going to end one way or another. And what a happy end.
In the March House garden, Meg and Mr. Brooke are married, with Mr. March officiating.
That's you, Curtis.
What excessive promises giving yourself away to get the upper? What a thing! What a gift! Always given before it is known to coat or to reward.
During this simple and emotional ceremony, Amy and Joe catch each other's eye. They simultaneously realize that they are the only two left standing. Later, during the picnic reception, Marmee and Hannah deliver cakes and pastries and food galore. Lori dances with Beth, whirling around. Meg, both bride and host, make sure everyone is cared for. Lori and Joe taste the alcohol and decide it's terrible. Meg dances with John. Marmee dances with Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence offers a dance with Aunt March, but she turns him down. Then Lori also approaches her. Aunt March finds even more hatred to cover her epic delight. There is more eating and dancing until the sun starts to set. As Aunt March moves to make her departure, she speaks to Meg, who stands with John, Marmee, and Father March.
Well, I hope you're happy now that you've ruined your life just like your mother did by marrying your father.
Despite her meanness, the March family is so happy. They burst out laughing.
Dear sister, you are too kind, and thank you for today's festivities.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, Aunt March.
Oh, I don't like to be kissed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You'll be sorry when you tried love in a cottage and found it a failure.
It can't be worse than some people find in big houses.
I understand your meaning, my dear. I don't miss a thing. You're not entirely wrong. I may not always be right, but I am never wrong. Thank goodness here's the only sane member of the family. I really can't take any more of this.
Amy leads Aunt March away, and Marmee lets them go. Amy gets Aunt March into a carriage and then lets out a cry of joy. She runs to Marmee, who is now standing with Joe.
Marmee! Aunt March is going to Europe, and?
I want me to go with her. How wonderful. Now I know why I spent all those boring hours reading to her.
No. She wants me to come as her companion.
Europe? With you?
She wants me to work on my art and my French, of course.
Oh, that's wonderful, Amy.
Marmee takes Joe's hand, knowing how hurt she is. Joe smiles through her pain for Meg's day, but it is a true blow. In Meg's house, John and Meg enter their small but lovely newlywed home. He embraces her and kisses her. She's never been happier. In the woods, Lori and Joe walk through the woods together as they've done for years.
Meg married, Amy off to Europe. Now they're off. Now that you're a graduate, you'll be off on a long holiday. I'm not good like Beth, so I'm angry and restless.
You don't have to stay here.
Why? Should we run off and join a pirate ship?
He looks at her.
No. Hetty, please don't.
It's no use, Joe. We've got to have it out.
No, we don't.
I've loved you ever since I've known you, Joe. I couldn't help it. And you've been so good to me. And I've tried to show it, but you wouldn't let me. And that's fine. Now I'm going to make you hear it and give me an answer because I can't go on like this any longer.
I wanted to save you from this. I thought you'd understand.
I've worked so hard to please you, and I gave up billiards and everything you didn't like, and I'm happy to do it, and I waited and never complained because I figured you love me, Joe. Though I know I'm not half good enough. I know I'm not this great
Yes,
man.
you are. You're a great deal too good for me, and I'm so grateful to you and so proud of you. I don't see why I can't love you as much as you want me to.
Can't.
I can't change the feeling, and it would be a lie to say I do when I don't. I'm so sorry, Teddy. So desperately sorry, but I can't help it.
I can't love anyone else.
It would be a disaster if we married. We'd be miserable. We both have such quick tempers.
If you loved me, Joe, I would be a perfect saint.
I can't. I've tried it and I failed.
Why does everyone expect it? My grandpa, your family? Joe, say you will, and let's be happy.
I can't say yes truly, so I won't say it at all. You'll see that I'm right eventually, and you'll thank me for it.
I'll be hanged if I do.
You'll find some lovely, accomplished girl who will adore you and make a fine mistress for your fine house. I wouldn't. I'm homely and awkward and odd, and you'd be ashamed of me, and we would quarrel. We can't help it, even now. I'd hate elegant society, and you'd hate my scribbling, and we would be unhappy and wish we hadn't done it, and everything will be horrid.
Anything more?
Nothing more, except that I don't believe I'll ever marry. I'm happy as I am and love my liberty too well to be in any hurry to give it up.
You will care for somebody, and you will love him tremendously and live and die for him. I know you will, Joe, because it's your way. You will. And I'll watch.
Teddy,
He straightens up and walks away. Joe cries and cries. Her heart is breaking, even though she is the one who broke it. Return to the present. Joe is putting away Beth's things and arranging her little dolls and toys. Everyone is gone. Meg left by marriage. Amy left by a voyage to Europe. Lori left because she rejected him. And Beth was taken from this life. She places sheet music on Beth's into a trunk. The hurt in her heart almost unbearable.
I hope I'm not disturbing your writing.
I don't do that anymore. I didn't save her.
You're much too lonely here, Joe. Wouldn't you like to go back to New York? What about your friend? Friedrich, was that his name?
I ruined our friendship with my temper, just as I ruin everything.
I doubt a sincere friend would be deterred.
I wish that were true. If I were a girl in a book, this would all be so easy. I'd give up the world happily.
Lori is returning, you know.
He is?
There was a letter from Amy. She's coming home. She was devastated about Beth and Aunt March is very ill, but Lori will be accompanying them on their journey home.
That's good of him.
What is it?
Perhaps I was too quick to turn him down.
Do you love him?
If he asked me again, I think I would say yes. Do you think he'll ask me again?
But do you love him?
I know that I care more to be loved. I want to be loved.
That is not the same as loving.
Women have minds and souls as well as hearts, ambition and talent as well as beauty, and I'm sick of being told that love is all a woman is fit for. But I am so lonely.
Cut to Paris, France. Amy, dressed in black, is waiting with all her luggage. She is in mourning. A carriage approaches and Lori gets out. He tentatively talks to Amy.
Couldn't let you travel alone with Aunt March being so sick, even if you despise me.
Oh, Lori, I don't despise you. Beth was the best of us. I'm not marrying Fred Vaughn.
I heard. Amy.
It was not for you. It was for myself. You are under no obligation to say anything or do anything. It was because I didn't love him as I should.
Lori studies her face, and we know that he sees her and he loves her.
You don't have to say anything. We never need to talk about it. We don't have to talk about.
Lori catches her face with his hands and kisses her. She looks at him and kisses him back. They embrace with both their joy and their grief. This is the way it was meant to be. It is done. In the March House attic, Joe, infused with a new kind of energy, writes to Lori. We hear snippets of the letter.
My dear Teddy, I miss you more than I can express. I used to think the worst fate was to be a wife. I was young and stupid. Now I have changed. The worst fate is to live my life without you in it. I was wrong to turn you down and to run away to New York.
He opens the mailbox, and places the letter inside. She looks at it satisfied, closes the mailbox, back up again. Return to the past on the streets of New York. Jo tries to find her way through the unfamiliar city. She isn't an expert at it quite yet. She walks too slowly, stares too long, and gets hopelessly lost. But a spark of happiness is growing. She's figuring out how to be what Anne March said was impossible, a woman making her own way in the world. She walks up the stairs to the boarding house, and as she ascends the stairs and the doors open, we hear,
Joe. Joe. Joe.
Return to the present. Jo is asleep on the couch and is gently shaken awake.
Joe, wake up.
Oh, Teddy, my Teddy.
Dear Joe, are you glad to see me then?
Glad, my blessed boy, is too small. Words can't express it.
Thank heaven. I was worried. Anyway, I wanted a moment with you alone.
Yes, of course. Here, come sit. How's Amy? Did she bother you all the way from Europe with her preening?
Yes, but I love it.
Where is she now? Did she not come straight home?
But your mother's got her down at Meg's. We stopped there by the way, and there was no getting my wife out of their clutches.
Your what?
I've done it. It was meant to be a surprise.
What surprise?
Well, we were engaged and we were going to wait. That is to say, now we are man and wife.
You and Amy.
It all happened very fast.
Are you in love?
Yes. Joe, I want to say this one thing and then we'll put it away forever. I have always loved you, but the love I feel for Amy is different. You were right. We would have killed each other.
Yes.
I think it was meant this way.
Oh, Teddy.
No one ever calls me that but you.
What does Amy call you?
My lord.
That's like her. Well, you look deserving of it.
Can we still be friends?
Of course, my boy. Always.
That moment, everyone comes bursting through the door, mother and father, and Amy and John and Megan dazed into me. Amy goes straight to Jo. Jo fixes her face and decides she will be the person she wishes she was.
Lori told you.
Yes.
Jo has a moment of wanting to strike her the way she did when they were children, but checks herself and tries to be what Beth would want.
Amy, I'm so happy for you. It was meant to be.
Oh, I'm so relieved. I couldn't write because it all happened so quickly. And then really, I was worried you'd be angry.
No.
So you aren't angry?
Life is too short to be angry at one's sisters.
I really miss her.
I know.
The sisters embrace. Over her shoulder, she catches her mother's eye, who gives her a look of infinite empathy. Then Lori calls for his wife. Jo straightens up and sees these couples, mother and father, John and Meg, Lori and Amy. It all hits her with a heat and a mass that she was unprepared for. She hastily excuses herself and goes outside. Outside, she is weeping, but also in a panic. Jo removes the letter from the mailbox and walks into the woods. She tears through the woods and finally stands by the river, breathing heavily for one moment. We believe that she might end her suffering in the most tragic way. She leans towards the river and throws the letter into it, letting it drift away along with her childhood love It is over. Back at the March house, Joe trudges back and is surprised to find Mr. Lawrence standing alone, looking at the March's house.
Mr. Lawrence?
Joe! I couldn't bring myself to the house. Just doesn't seem right without her. I couldn't go in knowing she wouldn't be there.
I know I am not half so good as my sister, but I'll be a friend to lean on if you'll let me.
He gratefully accepts her help, and they approach the house together, an odd, sweet pair of friends. In Joe and Meg's attic, Joe starts awake. She looks around the room. She's all alone. Everyone is truly gone. She lights a candle. She goes to the door where she keeps her writing and pulls out the stack. She feeds a published story into the fire. Then she burns more stories, printed, unpublished, half finished. She burns them all. It is a potlatch, a total burning down of everything she has made up until this point. She finds one last piece and is about to give it over to the fire when she reads on top, "For Beth." She stops. Joe makes her way up to the attic and sits in her old writing chair, looking at the story. She takes a fresh sheet of paper and begins writing. She writes all night and into the next day, piling up page after page. She spreads them out in the attic like a quilt, building outwards. Candles are lit and relit. The sun rises and sets. Marmee brings her some food and then leaves her alone. Joe nods off for a second, then keeps writing. She revises. She scratches out. She changes orders. She falls asleep on her blanket of papers. She's reconnected with her childhood and out of the depths of despair has found hope and inspiration. Joe finishes and carefully ties up the first few chapters of this experiment and writes a letter to Mr. Dashwood.
Dear Mr. Dashwood, enclosed are the first few chapters of a piece I've only begun working on. It could suit as a story for young people, but I think it is probably quite boring. However, I'm sending it to you just in case it has something of value, though I doubt it.
And at March's house, the empty room has nothing left of the deliciously cranky old lady. Furniture is covered over. The loss is felt in the grand room. Amy, Joe, and Meg walk around the big, empty mansion.
I thought she hated me.
She could still hate you and leave you the house.
What about you and John?
No, I don't need a grand estate. For heaven's sake.
What are you doing?
I should sell it, but I'd love to do something that would really make Aunt March turn in her grave.
I wouldn't do that.
Girls.
A nice turning, just a rotation, nothing terrible.
What will you do?
I'd like to open a school. We never had a proper school, and now there are women's colleges opening. There should be a school for Daisy.
And what will Demi do?
I'll open a school for boys and girls both.
What about writing?
What about it?
What are you working on?
I started something, but I don't think it's very good.
Everyone likes what you write.
No, they don't.
I do.
It's just about our little life.
So?
Who will be interested in a story of domestic struggles and joys? It doesn't have any real importance.
Maybe we don't see those things as important because people don't write about them.
No, writing doesn't confer importance, it reflects it.
I'm not sure. Perhaps writing will make them more important.
When did you become so wise?
Oh, I always have been. You were just too busy noticing my faults.
Which weren't there, of course.
They lean their heads together and stroll through the house. Cut to a New York publishing office. Mr. Dashwood is sitting reading the pages that Joe has given him. He finishes and writes to her.
Dear Miss March, I have read the chapters you sent, and I have to agree that they aren't very promising. But please send us more stories of the scandalous variety, if you have any.
In the March house, Joe is reading the note from Mr. Dashwood.
Or shall I say, your friend, Ken. My apologies for the joke. I couldn't help it.
She crumples it up, and just then Marmee breaks her reverie.
Joe, come down.
Coming! I'm starving.
Jo stashes her writing and clumps down the stairs and heads straight for the table, not even looking around her. She sits down and grabs a piece of bread and takes a big bite.
Jo, you might want to wait.
But I am famished.
Jo, dear, you have a guest.
I don't know anyone.
I'm so sorry to intrude.
It's you.
Return to the past. Jo, with all of her luggage, finds the address and rings the doorbell. Friedrich opens it. He smiles down at this young woman with his handsome face and merry eyes. She comes undone before even knowing it. Hello.
Hello, I'm Josephine March. Jo.
Just then, Mrs. Kirk pushes past them with her 2 children.
Jo, is that you? Come in, come in. Your mother says that you're a writer. How wonderful. I keep a diary, you know. This is Kitty and Minnie. Smile, girls. Well, you've met our professor. He's a very accomplished man. Actually, it's an interesting group here. Lots of intellectuals and Europeans. You know, I never thought I'd run a boarding home, but here I am. How is that sweet mother of yours? She always had such great height. I never had that. She could reach anything.
She leads Jo up through the stairs, and Jo takes a quick glance backwards towards Frederick, as if to confirm that the man she saw was real and not an apparition. She finds Frederick looking back at her and turns away. Return to the present. Oh, I hope it is all right. I got your address from Mrs. Kirk.
Who are you? Who is he?
I'm sorry to intrude. I was close by, and I thought I'll be going.
Please stay. We have more than enough room.
Can someone tell me who this man is?
I don't want to be a burden.
It's no burden at all.
Yes, of course. Please.
I'm Lori, and who are you?
I'm Frederick Barr.
Boarding house together in New York. Fuck! Shit! What happened?
Everything okay?
Everything okay?
I think the screen rotated.
That was an ad lib.
It's a rewrite.
I was like, oh.
Like, Jo.
I'm like, I think she read that wrong.
Jo is so excited that Frederick's here.
So if you're watching, I think somebody has a minor accident and is dealing with that. So we'll be back shortly.
All right, let's start from the beginning.
Yay.
This time all the boys play the girls.
Should we pull up the last
over again?
Can we pull up the last 5 minutes of the movie and we can just watch it?
I don't have it. Does anybody have it?
No,
there's a car chase right, by the way, in case somebody needs to I could pull that up to the screen to kill time. They're on the freeway. It's wonderful. Oh, he's passing cops. It's amazing.
Is it a carriage chase?
No.
It's there.
It's a white, it looks like a white Ford Bronco. I'm not joking.
Oh, God. Hey, can we go back to that line where I say that I'm not proud of the country, and then I stare at the
stare at the camera.
Oh my gosh.
I
I hope everything's okay with her.
Yeah, I hope all's well.
Oh my goodness.
You want to make
their camera turned?
I think it was something else. I'll call her. Maybe it's something else.
It's like she knocked her camera over.
I guess.
Oh my God.
We'll put this in the blooper reel.
Right.
It's in the blooper reel.
Oh my God, last night. Oh my
God.
An hour to get started.
Right, there she is.
Are you okay, Chris?
Yeah, all good?
Sorry, my phone died.
Oh.
It was on the charger, but like I guess the Zoom like completely wiped it out even with the charger on.
How did that happen?
You're still recording.
This is all part of the script.
Yes, this is the blooper reel.
Okay, sorry guys.
Sorry,
Where are we?
I think Joe just said fuck. Oh no.
Oh, did you hear
Well,
that?
I did the R-rated version, okay.
You heard me say fuck.
We all did, yes. A couple others.
It was great acting. Acting is real.
Yeah, we thought it was part of the show.
This happens all the time, and
It's like good improv.
this happens all the time.
Are we at the bottom of
We were
We're at 112.
Like,
Top of 112.
yeah, page 112 of the script, 115 on the PDF.
I'll just start at the top of 112. I'm Laurie, and who are you?
I'm Frederick Barr.
we were the same boarding house together in New York.
Oh, Joe, he's very handsome.
Later, everyone is talking. Father and Frederick especially talk philosophy and politics. Father obviously very much likes him. Joe is glowing with happiness. Amy looks from Frederick to Joe and from Joe to Frederick. She can see that there is love between them.
And you intend to stay in New York?
No, I've been offered a professorship at California, and as I have nothing keeping me here, I thought I might go west. It is new there, and they are less particular about immigrants.
Perhaps I should go west.
You aren't an immigrant. Perhaps you should stay home.
Oh, I'm going.
Everyone relaxes after dinner, and Frederick eyes the piano. This is a beautiful instrument. Which one of you plays?
It was my sister, Beth.
We all play a little.
But not so well as her.
It's very hard to lose a sister. I'm sorry.
Do you play?
I do, yes.
It would make us so happy if you'd play now. She wouldn't want the piano to sit silent.
Let me see. Do I remember any Bach? Let me see.
Frederick's going on a journey over there.
Oh, he's gonna play.
I don't wish to offend.
No, not in the least.
Well, if you ever come to California, I would love to see you.
I don't know that I will, but thank you.
Well, yes. Goodbye.
Wait, please, Frederick, play more.
Goodbye.
The door closes.
What? Why are you all looking at me like that?
What a wonderful man. I hope he comes again. He'd be a terrific friend for me.
Oh, Father, he wasn't here for you.
No.
Joe, you love him.
I do not.
Oh, you do too. I may be half as smart as you, but I can see it so plainly. You love him. I've never seen you happier. What else is love? Doesn't she love him, Mr. Lawrence?
That's a good instinct. You love him.
Go get him. Lori, prepare the horses. We can catch him before he gets to the train.
Not going.
You are. Amy, I'm right. Amy's right.
Coming too.
I never thought I'd prepare a carriage to help Joe March go after a man, but I like it.
He's moving to California.
That's a fiction. He was practically begging for a reason to stay.
But it's raining outside.
It doesn't matter. Put on a better dress. Follow me. Lori, stop standing there and go get the horses ready.
Yes, my love.
Cut to a New York apartment. It is also raining in New York. Mr. Dashwood is in his cozy apartment eating dinner with his wife who tries to start a fight.
You never ask about my mother, even when you know I've seen her.
I assume she's still alive.
But I ask after your mother.
And I have no idea why.
You're willfully missing the point.
That's true. What have they gotten into now?
I have no idea.
Father, publishing this, what happens to the Little Women? Tell me you have the rest of the book.
Close on Mr. Dashwood as he realizes what he has, what this story could be, the story that he and the author both thought was boring. At a carriage train station, Meg, Amy, and Joe are all in the carriage, making top speed through the rain. They arrive at the train station.
Go, find him!
Joe runs in the rain towards the beautifully lit station, and the music swells and the thunder claps, and we cut to the publishing house in New York City. Joe sits where she originally sat across from Dashwood, but now she is more grown up, more together, more herself.
Frankly, I don't see why she didn't marry the neighbor.
Because the neighbor married her sister.
Right, of course. So who does she marry?
No one. She doesn't marry either of them.
Oh, no, that won't work at all.
She says the whole book that she doesn't want to marry.
Who cares? The girls want to see women married, not consistent.
It isn't the right ending.
The right ending is the one that sells. If you end your delightful book with your heroine a spinster, no one will buy it. It won't be worth printing.
I suppose marriage has always been an economic proposition, even in fiction.
It's romance.
It's mercenary.
Just end it that way, will you?
Fine.
The present is now the past, or maybe fiction. Exterior of the train station in the evening, Joe runs from the carriage out into the rain and into the crowd in front of the train station looking for Frederick. He's not there. Every face isn't his. Couple after couple stands under umbrellas. She runs into the station and then turns around to go back out. Has she missed him? Joe! Joe, why are you crying?
Because you were going away.
I would never leave if you wished me to stay.
I wish you would stay.
But I have nothing to give you but my full heart and these empty hands.
They aren't empty now.
They kiss one of those epic, perfect kisses. The train arrives and he doesn't get on it. In the present, in the publishing house, back to negotiations.
I love it. It's so romantic. Your hands aren't empty now. It makes me emotional.
Oh, thanks.
We can call the chapter Under the Umbrella.
It's good.
Perfect. Now there's the question of the contract. I'm prepared to give you 5% of the royalties.
So I get 5% of the profit?
5% of the net profits after I recoup.
What about a payment up front?
I'm taking the risk in printing this book.
Yes, but it's my book.
If it works, then we'll both make money. If not, then I won't go under.
So I get nothing if it fails?
No, I'll give you $500 right now to buy out the copyright.
The copyright?
It's the right for reprinting, that sort of thing. Sequels, the characters for other stories.
Might that be worth something?
Well, again, only if it's a success.
I see. It seems like something I would want to own.
Doesn't your family need the money more immediately?
They do, which is why I wanted upfront payment.
I'll only pay for the copyright.
You keep your $500 and I'll keep the copyright. Thank you. Also, I want 10% of the royalties.
5%. 5%, and that is very generous.
9%.
6%, and that's it.
If I'm going to sell my heroine into marriage for money, I might as well get some for it.
6%. 6%.
Done.
And you don't need to decide about the copyright now.
I've decided I want to own my own book.
We fade down on this scene and fade up to fiction in Plumfield Academy in 1871. Joe is supervising a great number of rambunctious girls and boys of all races and ages. They are finishing lessons for the day, and everyone runs outside at full speed. Joe makes her way down the stairs and is handed a homemade cake by one of the children. She kisses him on the head and continues through what she's built. Every inch of the school is covered with the students' work. All of the former stuffiness is gone. She's in heaven. In real life in the printing house, Joe, captivated, watches type being set, each letter put into place, and one page after another pressed with her novel. In fiction, Joe walks past Frederick's classroom, all the students with their violins learning from him how to play. They smile at each other and continue out. At the printing house, each page is stacked one on top of the other, and the massive industrial sewing machine stitches the pages together as Joe observes. In fiction, Joe walks past Laurie giving a fencing lesson while also holding his baby. Amy conducting a painting lesson, Meg supervising children in a play rehearsal, John Brooke, his own children next to him, leading a botany lesson. They all join Joe as she troops down the lawn. In the printing house, the excess of each page are sliced off, making a satisfying sound and making Joe jump and laugh at her jumpiness. In fiction, leading a procession of children and family behind her. Yeah, this didn't work for me. Leading and holding the cake. Joe and the group arrive upon Father teaching the very young children the alphabet by having their bodies form the letters, and also Marmee, who's having each child read aloud their best dramatic reading voice. In the publishing house, the hard cover of the book is placed over the pages. The glue to hold it in place is so strong smelling as to make Joe dizzy. In fiction, Joe presents her mother with the cake, and all of them, Amy, Meg, Joe, Laurie, John, Frederick, Father, and the children, wish her a happy birthday. Joe looks around at the group, so happy she was able to be alive with them, so amazed. In the publishing house, a man finishes the book and unceremoniously hands it to Joe and gets the work on the next one. In the past, or fiction, Beth, Meg, Amy, and Joe are very young girls playing in their attic together again, if only in memory or in the book. In the publishing house, Joe turns it over in her hands, touching it like the holy object it is. Her inchoate desires made manifest. Joe looks up and sees the future. Cut to black, the credits.
Hey!
Oh, God.
And they really were the littlest of women.
Yeah,
that title was said a few times, more than I thought.
Damn, we went for 2.5 hours.
You did. All right. Thanks
Yeah,
for
good.
the live stream. Everybody watching, thanks for watching.
Wow, we had